Welcome back to MVM. Today I am bringing you a preview of a new Kickstarter. It is an expansion for Archmage called Archmage Ascendant from Starling Games. In Archmage, you are playing a group of mages after basically the final battle to defeat the evil. Now that the evil has been defeated and the tower has been cleansed, it is time to spread out from the tower, reclaim the land, and build up your forces to the point where you will be named Archmage of this new world. Now, you'll see in front of me a variety of different components. The expansion is up on Kickstarter now, but you will also have the option to get the original version of Archmage. Now, I am using the collector's edition of Archmage to give this example. If you've never played the game before, it might be a little difficult to tell what's old and what's new, so I will be sure to point those out. For those of you who have played Archmage, this expansion offers a few new modules that can be kind of subbed in and out as you wish. I will talk about that as well, but first let me give a basic overview of the components. So, the collector's edition of the game comes with this board. Every version comes with these tiles. You'll notice some new tiles here, which are these places of power. These places of power are one of the new modules that you can add in the game. They just sub in for wilderness tiles. There's a new setup diagram in the rulebook telling you how to set up by using these places of power. Every one of these places of power refers to one of these cards. If you control the place of power, you take the card belonging to that location and you gain a benefit for having that location. So those are the only new tiles that are added in with the expansion. Other than that, you're going to see a variety of components up here. There are a lot of components and tokens and things like that in this game. I'm not going to be able to break down every single spell and what it does. Just know that these components in general refer to a lot of the specific spells. You can use these counters to mark the board with things like the magic barriers or harvest bonuses, things like that. These green tokens are defense tokens that can be placed on the board. So like I said, a lot of different components, but every player is going to have a player board, a deck featuring the artwork from their mage, and then a color of worker. Now, these workers are both going to go on your player board and be spent out on your board. You're also going to have a tower of your color and a main mage figure of your color. New in the expansion as well are prophecy cards, which are going to serve as end-game scoring points for you if you can complete certain prophecies during the game. Everybody's deck of cards is going to be exactly the same, and it's going to contain all of the same spells. These spells are linked to the elements that you can see here on my player board: matter, time, will, death, blood, and nature. Where these meet, for example, where blood meets nature, you're getting a spell that's a little bit of both. And so everybody's spellbook has spells for every one of these sections in the game. They come in 3 varieties: basic, advanced, and master. Now, to level up, you're going to have to train your mages from basic level to advanced level, all the way to the master of a particular element of magic. The expansion comes with new spells. So when you're setting up the game for the first time, you'll want to talk with the other players and decide which spells you're going to use. You can either substitute in the new set of spells for the old set of spells. You can mix and match between the basic and the advanced, or you can just build your deck with all the spells and let each player choose which spells they want to use when they play them. So this is going to give you a lot more flexibility in spells. It's also going to allow everybody's tableau to look very different by the end of the game. So when you set up, you're going to take your player board. You're not going to start with everything set up like it is. This is definitely a setup of a game already in progress, but you're going to set up your board. You're going to place your planet discs in the sky. And every turn, these planet discs are going to move in towards the center. And the game ends when all of them are stacked up in the middle. And this is going to earn you relics as well. So looking at the board, you're going to see a game already in progress, like I said. Normally, most of these tiles are going to start the game face down. You're going to have to explore them. I'll talk about that in a second. But just to show you kind of what everything is included in the game, I have the tiles all face up. So everybody starts at the tower. So you'll take your mage figure and you'll start in one of the 4 sectors of that tower. The tower always sits in the middle of the board, and you're always surrounded by the camps of the free folk races of the world. Things like elves and dwarfs and dryads and things like that. These permanent camps are going to sit in the middle of the board. You're going to want to return to them often to cash in your resources, which in this game are called relics. So you're going to want to return here often. This is always the same. The rest of these tiles are going to vary in their setup based on how many players. We do have a 4-player game set up here. Mixed in with these tiles, you're going to find camps. Camps might be some of the other races of the game. For example, drow and trolls and other half races. You're going to have towns. Towns are a tile that lets you take a specific action that you're going to want to take often during the game. And then you have wilderness tiles. And these wilderness tiles all produce resources which link directly back to the elements of your player board. There is a terrain type in the game for every element type on your player board. So once everybody is set up and ready to start playing the game, you're going to first move one of your planets to the next space in the alignment and gain one of those relics. For example, I'd gain a blood relic here. This is, like I said, is keeping track of the turn order, the turns of the game, but you can choose which to move at any time, and it's going to grant you a bonus relic, and these relics are going to be very important, as you'll see shortly. So once you've done that, you get 5 movement to spend with your mage. Now, movement can be simple. You can take your mage and you can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces on the board. You can spend a movement to explore. For example, if this camp was unexplored, it would look like this face down. You can spend 1 movement to flip it up and reveal it, and another movement to move on to it. If you reveal a resource tile that way, for example, this crypt, you would automatically get 1 skull, which is a death relic. So you'd move your death relics up by 1, and then you could use another movement to move on to that. Every time you move off to a space, you have an option of leaving one of your workers behind. Now, these workers are going to sit out on the board and do a variety of different things for you. However, your supply is limited. You have to decide if you want to put them on your player board or on your main board. Unused workers are going to sit in one of these bags, and as you replenish your pool, you'll draw them out and rebuild your supply. So you are always limited. You're going to have to make tough decisions. You can also use your movement to do battle with another opponent. You can never mess with anybody else's mage. The mage is kind of just going to do their own thing, but I can spend a movement action to destroy somebody's pawn. Their pawn is returned, and we both gain a blood relic just for initiating the combat. So the crux of the game is moving around the board, taking these movement actions. You can leave behind defensive tokens and things like that. There's just a lot of things you can do with that movement, but what really matters is where you end your turn. Based on where you end your turn, you're going to take the action of the tile you land on. So for example, if I landed here on this crypt, I'd get to take the action here, which I can build a tower if I didn't already have a tower. But I did kind of start the game with all the towers set up. But for example, I could build a tower here. If you're on the same space with your tower, you can interact with your player board, and we'll talk about that in a minute. If you're at a camp, you can interact with the race there. Each different fantasy race will train you in different ways of magic. If you go to these center races, they're the most powerful. You can trade in your relics to them, and in exchange they will train your mages up. So for example, if I ended here on the gnomes, which are yellow, you look at your player board where the yellow relic is, which is matter, I can trade 2 in to gain 1 mage studied in that matter. So I spend 2, I take one of my mages, place it here. Now, by putting a mage here, I've now learned a new spell. There was not a mage here before, there is one now. I will gain a new spell, but that won't happen until the start of the next turn. So these spaces, the camps with the half races and these middle spaces where you can interact with the different camps, that's going to be where you get the majority of your mages on your player board. You want a lot of mages on your player board. You want to try to level them up, and you want to try to learn as many spells as you can, especially spells that are going to help you with your strategy. Now, as you're doing that, you want to pay attention to these prophecy cards. Like I said, these are new for the expansion, but these prophecy cards are going to give you an objective. They're going to give you a minor objective and a major objective. At any time, you can decide to cash this in. If you've only managed to complete the minor objective, then you tuck it under your player board, and you're only going to get 1 or 2 victory points. If you manage to complete the full objective, you'll get 3. But once you put it face up in front of you, you're locked into that point. The most you're ever going to get from these is 9. You start the game with 3, and each one is worth 3 points, potentially, if you can complete that harder objective. Another place you might end your turn is on a town. Now, when you end your place on a turn on a town, every one of your mages out on this board is going to produce for you. You're going to look at each space that they're on, and you're going to take that many relics. So you're kind of benefiting from having a ton of these mages spread out, but you have to return to town in order to take that action. Now, when you are interacting with your player board and the tower, you can choose to train up your mages. If I had a mage here from Matter and Nature, I could send these 2 mages in to a duel with each other. Basically, I'm sending both mages in, only one mage comes out. So both mages go into the duel. One is lost, and then the other becomes a new mage. You could do that again for the advanced level. You could take 2 mages, make them fight each other. One levels up, and the other one goes away. And you can do this when you return to your tower. Now, you're kind of consolidating your mages here, but you're also leveling them up, which is going to gain access to these spells. Now, you can always cast spells on your turn. These spells do a ton of different things. Like I said, I can't really go through every spell because there are a ton, especially with the expansion, adding new spells in for every slot, so you can really play with these strategies. Some of the new spells let you fly around the board. They let you teleport back to your home base. They let you build these magic barriers to block travel. You can put resource generation tokens on different tiles to generate more workers and points and things like that. Like, you're going to want to gather as many of these spells as possible because these can impact the gameplay in a lot of different ways. They do require relics to cast, and then with the more expensive spells costing up to 3 relics. So you still kind of need to manage your engine and gather a lot of resources. It does help to focus on maybe just a couple different elements so you can focus on gaining those resources and in the form of relics and really power some spells, or you can just choose to spread out and learn basic spells and have a lot of flexibility. So the expansion just adds even more to that flexibility there. So play like this is going to continue on with each player taking their actions, moving their mage on the board, discovering new tiles, taking tile actions, fighting each other, promoting guys, learning new spells, casting spells. All of these things are going to keep happening. But like I said, every turn you move one planet closer to alignment. Eventually, everyone's planets are going to be aligned. That triggers the end of the game. Then you're going to score points. You're going to score points for having your mages leveled up into the different positions on the board. You're going to score points for having area control of these different types of terrain. You're going to score points for your prophecy cards. There are a lot of different ways to score points in this game, but at the end of it, when you score points, you're going to figure out who wins, and they're crowned Archmage. So that is a really brief overview of how the game is played, but I do want to talk more specifically about what comes in the expansion. So I did already mention these places of power here. These are just new locations you can go to. You can leave a guy on them to control them. You'll take the card, put it in front of you, and you're going to have an ability now that affects the rest of your game. So you're going to be able to use that action just during your turn. So you have the places of power, you have the new spells, and you have a new game mode, which is pretty cool. For those who have played the base game, you'll remember there is a solo mode included in that, where you have a warlord figure that you're kind of battling against. And you would use a die, you'd roll a die and move that warlord around the board, and he would trigger different things. Well, that has been replaced by a deck of cards. And this warlord deck, you'll flip it over, it tells you where the warlord moves and what he does on his turn. So it's a little less random than the die, and it also allows for some cooler combos to be taken by the warlord. In addition to this new deck, there is also a 2-player cooperative variant, which is a super cool idea, I think, in which 2 players are going to play with each other to take on that warlord together. It comes with a complete new set of rules on how to handle the AI and the warlord and things like that in a 2-player cooperative game. So the new Warlord, the new gameplay aspects, the new cards, the new tiles, and these prophecy cards add a whole nother layer to the game because you're wanting to try to complete these. You can get 9 points, which can be enough to make the difference between winning or losing this game. So you've got everything here included. You'll be able to get the original version of Archmage Collector's Edition, plus you can get Archmage Ascendant, which is that modular-based expansion. I encourage you to just experiment with the different modules. I love all the new spell cards, and personally, I really like the idea of just shuffling all the spell cards in at once. Now, when you do that, every time you train up a mage to a new level, you're going to choose one of the available spells. You're not locked in. It's not just an automatic, oh, you're going to get this spell. So you can kind of keep other players guessing a little bit, but you get to choose which spell to put out. Now, if I lose that mage, I lose that spell. When he comes back, I can gain, a different spell this time. Later, if I take a second mage and train him, then I can actually add in that second spell. So I can have 2 spells of the same variety. And everything you see in front of you is available right now on the Kickstarter. So head over to that Kickstarter page, take a look at it, come back here, ask any questions, please leave comments. We will respond to everyone if we can. And as always, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and we will see you next time.